Hi everyone, welcome to Business Project Management Week 2. As always, if you need anything, please contact me via email. My email address is on the screen. I am pretty responsive, so we will set up some time to talk if you need anything, so don't hesitate to contact me. Hope everything went well in Week 1, and let's get started in Week 2, in which case we'll be looking at planning a project. And some tools you can use when planning projects. This will hopefully be helpful to you in your second assignment and of course beyond just the assignment. Let's take a look back at some things we looked at in week 1. Hopefully you watched the videos of Porter and Barney and different perspectives in terms of strategy and positioning. As you can see on this frame, Porter is all about competitive forces and that the advantage comes from the outside or the industry, whereas Barney believes it comes from inside, from the firm itself. So the resources that a company has will dictate its success, not just general resources, but really competitive advantages, things that that company has that others do not. I believe it's a combination of the two. But if you have not watched those videos, please do so. Again, we looked at simple rules for a complex world, that concept of by setting corporate objectives, which I think are very important. And on your second assignment, you will be graded and judged heavily on your objectives, making them specific and measurable. Um, so I think an example I gave last week was in ticket sales. Your objective could be to sell more tickets this year than you did last year, but that's not really as specific or measurable. Well, it's measurable, but it's not very defined. So one ticket is 100 tickets. So if it's 100 tickets, then you know how many you have to sell each week, and you can break it up and come up with a plan. And also at the end of the project, know if you were successful or not. And by knowing if you were successful, you can determine if you should change your strategy for next time and how you operate, or if it works, if you should change your objectives, those types of things. So it's important to set corporate objectives. And what this does, it helps you with bottlenecks, which is really bottlenecks are really about having not enough resources to maybe do everything you want to. So you have to look at what are the objectives, how do we use the resources, and that helps us choose our projects. What project should a company take on should be defined by the corporate objectives, which, as discussed in the videos, I believe it was Porter who said the company and the employees need to know those objectives so they can make the right decisions. I had suggested that you watch Moneyball. If you haven't, it's still a strong recommendation. Besides it being a great movie, a great sports movie, it's got some project management principles in there. There's a bottleneck in financial resources. The owner gives Billy Bean only a certain amount of money, so therefore he has to field a team that's competitive for very low salaries. So there's his bottleneck is financial. His objectives are to win, uh, and he uses a different strategy by which to do that, using a lot of statistics and data, and it ties into sabermetrics. Um, and these are some of his rules. No players with personal problems. In the movie, you see he trades Giambi because he was fine on the field, but he was a hindrance in the locker room. And then he looks at the data and the stats, and no sacrifice flies, no steals. So don't give away runs. Don't give away outs is the way he looks at it. So everything's very based on statistics, and that's how he achieves a winning season. Maybe not successful because he didn't go to the World Series as he states his objective is, but still competitive based on the bottleneck of financial resources. An example we looked at last year was if you're looking at a new concession stand in your venue, and a beer stand can make $15,000 per game, and your nacho stand can make 10,000, you're obviously going to go with your beer stand because it's making $5,000 more. But if I told you that the company's objective or strategy is to gain younger fans, to get more families into the arena to see the game, then you're probably going to go with nachos. There's a bottleneck. The bottleneck being we only have space for one new concession stand. So we look at our objectives and we're able to decide what should be in that concession stand. Again, you can't really make decisions strictly on return on investment, in this case financial, on that specific concession stand, and you can't make decisions without knowing the company's objectives. So they choose, this is choosing a project, which one should we put in? Um, in the long run, you're probably going to make more money because you're going to have younger fans who are going to buy more merchandise, and you have future fans who are going to be with the team for a long time. So again, knowing objectives. Objectives are key. I want to see on your assignment very specific objectives. And when we read through the assignment, I'll give you some examples of that. Let's take a look at there's some videos posted I'd like you to watch. You need to watch all of these. We're going to look at traditional versus agile project management. Traditional is very linear. It's dealt with schedules and budgets and timelines and risk management, and it's very linear in that a construction project is traditional. You put in your foundation, you frame your walls, you put in electrical and plumbing, then you sheetrock your framing, and then put on a roof. I know it's simplified, but the idea is that you have to go in order, and you know that here's what we're going to deliver, and everything's spelled out that way. Agile emphasizes a little more in empowering people to collaborate. It's really an entrepreneurial style, and you'll see that in the video. I can't explain it as well as the videos do, but what you'll see in Agile is that type of project management is used a lot in software development. New product, developing new product or technology. When I ran a research and development lab for ESPN, the engineers operated more in an agile approach. And in an agile approach, what you're doing is you're taking little steps. You know you want to create, let's say, a new software, a new app for your stadium. And you have some ideas and you know it needs to be ready by a certain date, but you don't have the full schedule planned out because you don't know what technology is going to do. You may try to program something and it doesn't work, or it works and you develop a new idea because of the way it worked. So it's very collaborative. Everybody on the team needs to work together, and you take little steps towards your final goal. You still have to have an objective, yet that objective may change based on technology. Again, think of traditional, you've got it all planned out, you know how you're going to get from A to B. Agile, you know you've got to get from A to B, you're just not quite sure how you're going to do it, what surprises you may have, good and bad, in that journey. So again, watch those videos, that'll help you out. Scrum, you'll see a video on Scrum. That's a style of Agile. That's kind of how people manage Agile projects. It's a technique that you'll see in the videos as well. So Agile also has a subset called effectuation, which is very entrepreneurial. Again, you'll see in the video the woman who designed this looked at entrepreneurs and to see why they were successful. In business, and entrepreneurs do not, they choose something they're passionate about. I think we talked about it last week, that Bill Gates was successful not because he went into business and started Microsoft to be one of the richest men in the world. He started Microsoft because he was passionate about personal computers and wanted everybody to have one. So if you want to open a restaurant and you don't know anything about Mexican food, you don't open a Mexican food restaurant just because there's a need for it. You open an Italian restaurant because you are passionate about Italian food and you've been cooking Italian food, your family has for generations, and there is a need for one, but it's more the passion. And in this concept, you she developed 5 different principles: bird in hand, affordable loss, lemonade principle, patchwork quilt, pilot in the plane principle. And you can see what these mean, and as you watch the videos and look at some of the other um, handouts in the library, it'll explain this. But if we look at bird in hand, you look at resources. Um, in bird in hand, you're not going out in effectuation in this principle. You're not going out to get your resources. It's a set of skills and contacts you already have. So I'm already good at developing this technology or this software or building this Italian restaurant. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not that I have an interest in it, so I'm just going to go find people who know how. I may have to get some people, those are where contacts, who can help me. Maybe I need somebody who's good with accounting to join the team. But these are skills that I already have and can draw from. In the affordable loss, the idea in entrepreneurial technique for entrepreneurs, they don't, you shouldn't go into it thinking, here's how much I'm going to make. It's not necessarily a return on investment. It's how much am I willing to lose if it fails. For instance, maybe I want to start a new company, so I'm going to take 6 months off. I'm going to quit my job, and I've got maybe $100,000 that I've saved to invest in this company. That's my affordable loss. I know I can only stay out of work for 6 months, and I can only afford to lose $100,000. So after 6 months and or $100,000, I'll go back and find a new job. That's how affordable loss works. You hear stories of people maxing out their credit cards and doing different things to start a business and being successful. I will tell you it happens once in a while, but it's rare. This is the way you have to operate. Otherwise, you could just lose money forever. And how much you can lose obviously differs between time. Like if you have a family, you may not be able to risk as much time of being out of work, as well as much cash. Lemonade principle, real quick. It's something good that opens up new opportunities. So you're taking things as positives. If something doesn't work, you don't say, "Oh, it doesn't work. What am I going to do?" You look at why doesn't it work, and does it open up a new opportunity for maybe the software to do something else that you didn't first expect it to. Patchwork quilt is the idea is you're not hiring people. People are, we say volunteering, but they want to be part of the team. Eventually they'll get paid, they may get paid, but the point is you're not hiring them. You're bringing people on as a team to help influence the goal. And that goal may change from what you had when you start to get new people. Pilot in the plane principle is the idea is we're influencing the future. We're making it. We're not seeing what's out there. We're trying to do something new. Entrepreneurs, to be successful, need to come up with something new. They may make an improvement on a product or a completely new product or offering or service, but it has to be something new that hasn't been on the market yet. So the idea is that entrepreneurs create and influence the future. They don't just go along with it and what's planned. So that was real quick. I know that, but take a look at all the stuff in the library, and it's going to really go in depth in that. And if you got any questions, let's go over them. Let's look at these. I know these have been discussed in some of the readings as well. Work breakdown structure. The idea here is this is a how a project can be organized. So basically, what this is showing is that the overall project manager, will say, is Andre, and he's in charge of promotion. But there's too much to do, so he's hired other project managers to work with him. So he'll take care of promotion, and then he's got Chris to help him out as well. And then he hired Bill to be the project manager for volunteers, Chris for entertainment, and David will help him out with entertainment. And then Andre will handle, David will handle food, and Andre will help him out and Bill will handle services while Chris helps him out. The idea here is that I can look at this now and know exactly who's doing what. And who's in charge of what area. And the WBS numbers, those numbers are generally used for coding purposes. So if I have a budget item and I'm paying for entertainment stage rental, I know that goes against budget item in 3.2. ESPN and Disney use a similar system. The numbers are obviously much larger. But like, for instance, there's a WBS number for all of Monday Night Football. And then within that, there may be one for each specific game. Travel for a game may have its own number. Production truck has its own number. So that way you can really keep a tight budget and keep track of who's in charge of what. So this is a very common technique. It doesn't have a lot of information on there, but it's got the numbers for coding purposes, and it has who's in charge, so you have point people. And in this case, a lot of the areas they have a secondary person to help out. Which brings us to problem 47. What do you do if the project is just too large to manage with a single WBS? You can break it down into sub-projects like that last one we just saw. The issue in doing that is making sure you have the right leaders in each sub area and making sure there's good communication. So if we go back to this, let's say Chris doesn't let Andre know that some of these performers have changed. He's promoting the wrong performers for this event. So the key when you have multiple project managers is communication. Regular check-ins, some sort of online system where they keep track and do daily updates might help as well. This is a Gantt chart, has a little more information. What it doesn't tell you is who's in charge of each area, but what it does do is it gives you a schedule. Tells you what team is responsible. It shows where some overlaps can happen. Milestones are key check-in points. So basically, market research and defined specifications, they each have about a number of weeks for each. What's more important is that they're through both of those by September 13th. If market research takes a little longer and defined specs take a little less, as long as they're both done by that milestone, they're still on schedule. You can see where some overlap, for instance, development starts before they even hit milestone 2, even though it's not part of milestone 2. So by doing this, you can plan better in hiring subcontractors, know to bring them in so you're not waiting. It helps you know if you're running behind in an area. You can look at places that maybe you can cut down on an area and time to catch up. It's a visual, very good schedule. If you go to a large construction site, you will see these, a program called Microsoft Project can generate these. And if you go into a construction trailer, the walls will just be covered with these because they don't want, for instance, they don't want plumbers coming in and electricians coming in to work before the building is ready for that, because they're going to have to pay them. So it's a great way to keep track of when materials need to be there and employees and contractors. Network diagram, to be honest, not used a lot, but helpful. All this shows is by looking at the arrows, and it's pretty self-explanatory, shows you what tasks need to be done before another task. For instance, 1 and 2 can be done at the same time, but you can see by the arrows that 3 can't be done until both 1 and 2 are done. 4 can start just after 2, and then 5 needs 3 and 4 to be done, which then means 1 and 2. So basically, this is just giving you an idea of the order things need to be done in. And a lot of times these will be built, and then the Gantt chart is generated by knowing what leads into what. So this is kind of a good tool to use before building your Gantt chart, which you see here. So let's look at problem 51, project estimates. For project estimate, project estimates, particularly rate to time and cost of projects. How do you account? Hold on one sec. can see a little better now. Building accurate estimates depends on prior experience with similar tasks and the existence of relevant data. We talked about this last week. If you watch the Charlie Freeman video, he talks a lot about talking with experts, getting input. When I led an engineering team, I didn't know how long it would take to write code, but I worked with them on what was realistic to then create the estimate, which would be time and cost. So it's important to look at past history, past projects, how certain people work, how long they take, where hangups can happen, and really consulting experts, because you can't know everything. So it's good to especially to ask the people you're asking to do this work, because if you ask them to do something in a week that normally takes 2, it's not going to create a good relationship or leader. It's not good leadership on your part. So this was a short class, but let's get into assignment 2 and look at what's required for creating a project. You're going to create a project that adds value and it says here complements the event you created in your events class. Use the same organization as you use for your event. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't have to complement the event. It's up to you, but that is a good idea if it does, because then they relate. You're going to define the objectives for the project that are specific and measurable. Again, please make those specific and measurable. I don't want to see increased fan engagement. I want to know what that means and how you're going to measure it and what you're looking to achieve. Increase social media awareness isn't specific and measurable. Increase Facebook likes by 10% is specific and measurable. Maybe you did a survey for fan engagement. You're looking for improvements in fan engagement through a survey. That's possible. You want to make so much money through sponsorship, sell so many tickets, make them very specific and measurable. I want you to identify the potential risks for your project. What can happen? What could go wrong? And then show and explain how your project will add value to the organization. You need to explain if it's based on ROI, am I going to make money on this? Or another type of value, which ultimately would lead to money. And you're going to do a I'm sorry, this is for my in-class version, but you're going to prepare a narrated keynote for this. So prepare a narrated keynote that shows me what your project is, explain it, clear objectives. There should be multiple objectives. And then what are the risks of your project? What could go wrong? And then how is this adding value or ROI? So why are you doing the project? You're going to take the role of the project manager. I know you've all picked an organization, but if for some reason you didn't take the events class, you don't have one, please do not pick the Magic or Orlando City Soccer. If you have not taken the events class yet, your organization will become the organization for your events class. But obviously, you're taking the organization you used last week for assignment 1. Again, if you have any questions, email me and let me know how I can help. All right. Have a great week. Thanks.